It's June 5th, 2017, and today was Apple's WWDC, Worldwide Developers Conference, for 2017. They made a lot of announcements, and actually, if you watch my previous predictions video for WWDC, you'll find that almost all of the predictions that I made were correct, so that's always a good sign. I'm going to try to give you a lightning round of information on what Apple announced. I'm sure you can read all the tech blogs and get more information and details, and of course more information will be available as this is now officially announced on apple.com and from Apple directly. So let's just kind of go through quickly a lightning update on Apple's WWDC. So the first thing they talked about, this will all be in chronological order, talked about Amazon Prime Video coming to TV OS later this year. That had been a notable omission to Apple's TV offering, so it'll be nice to have that. The first software they talked about was watchOS 4. They talked about 3 new watch faces. There was a Toy Story watch face, a Kaleidoscope watch face, and most interestingly, Siri watch face. So it'll automatically show you what's most important. It adapts to your use, and it uses Siri machine learning to display information that is most pertinent to you. They also talked about connections with new workout applications, as well as NFC data exchange with certain gym equipment that will be coming out later this year. So the treadmill, for instance, that you may be running on can share information about the incline of your run, and conversely, the Apple Watch can share information to the equipment, for example, with your heart rate. There's also a new vertical dock, more background control APIs, so things can work in the background a little bit better, and this will be coming out as a free update in the fall, as we've seen several times in a row. So next up was Mac, and there was a lot of touch on Mac, both software and hardware. We'll start with software first. The next version of macOS will be called High Sierra, which is not a huge change from Sierra, obviously. Some cool notable features that they talked about at the keynote. First, starting with Safari. 2 things that really caught my attention. Number 1, autoplay blocking. I'm sure we've all gone to different websites and had different tabs open where things started autoplaying, and it was very, very annoying. Safari will now automatically block that in High Sierra. There's also intelligent tracking prevention. So the tracking that different companies use on you will be the protection and privacy for that will be improved in Sierra, in macOS High Sierra, and in Safari, I should say. Sorry. Mail, interesting about Mail, it actually is going to be using 35% less disk space, which I thought was very interesting because I have huge Mail libraries. Photos, there's an improvement to Faces and better synchronization across devices with face tags and other things. Also improved editing tools and better search. And also kind of on the back end, and we've talked maybe about Apple File System in the past because that's now what's going on with iOS, but Apple File System is coming to macOS. So that's a modernization and has to do with basically optimizing for modern hardware, particularly with respect to flash storage. So the next thing we'll talk about is iMac. There's actually 2 parts to iMac. The second part we'll get to in a second. Basically, iMac has gotten a little bit of a spec increase. So new displays that are 43% brighter. They have Kaby Lake processors. The 21.5-inch model now goes up to 32 gigabytes of RAM. For the larger model, it's 64 gigabytes of RAM. And for that 27-inch model, Fusion drives are standard across the board. iMacs are also finally getting USB-C ports, and the normal USB-A ports are still there as well. There's also improved graphics across the board. So even on the base model, for example, graphics are 80% faster. All 4K models and up also now come standard with discrete graphics cards that offer particularly good improvement over previous versions. There's external GPU support as well over those USB-C ports, which is incredibly nice and is incredibly interesting for people that want to basically enhance their iMac. They like the form factor, but for certain tasks, maybe professional video editing tasks, things along those lines, they need a little bit more power. They can plug and play now and get that. One thing they really touched on a lot was VR editing with the new iMac that has a lot more power, so being able to do a lot more VR tasks. The 4K iMac, there was also a price drop of that to $12.99. So now $12.99 will be the lowest price you can get for a 4K iMac, which is pretty cool. The MacBooks were updated as well in both MacBook and MacBook Pro, Kaby Lake processors. The price drop that I was predicting wasn't quite as extensive, so it only applied to the non-touch bar model. But now the new redesign starts at $12.99 for the non-touch bar model. And I believe they mentioned that there'll be MacBook Air, slight bump in megahertz as well on MacBook Air, although that's obviously kind of trending outwards. Circling back to iMac, they actually announced a new product, which was a little bit surprising. We didn't really see a lot about that in the rumor mill, but it's called iMac Pro, and it's shipping in December. It comes in space gray and has a 5K display. There'll be 8, 10, and 18 core Xenon processor options, as well as Radeon Vega graphics with up to 12 gigabytes of VRAM and up to 128 gigabytes of ECC memory. And that'll be starting at $4,999 when it ships at the end of December. Again, Apple has previously mentioned that they're really trying to make a renewed push towards pro content creation and pro hardware. We didn't see any talk of the new Mac Pro that they have previously alluded to, but an iMac Pro at the end of the year could be something that is appealing to certain people. Switching gears now to mobile, Apple talked about iOS 11, obviously. Some cool features that they mentioned at the keynote: messages. They're now synchronizing between devices. So previously, yes, you could have your iMessages and text come to your Mac or your iPad, but there wasn't full synchronization. So if you deleted a thread, it didn't delete on all devices. And previous threads that existed before you connected your iPad or MacBook or whatever didn't transfer. So now there's synchronization. And what's nice about the fact that it's now in the cloud is that messages are now going to take up less storage on your actual device, because they only have to cache the threads that you're using most frequently, and the other things can just be stored in the cloud. Another cool thing that's also built into messages is Apple Pay support, allowing you to do payments from person to person. So basically this is like Venmo. It's an iMessage app, but it's going to make it very easy to just quickly send payments between your friends. Siri also was talked about significantly, something I have talked about before as an improvement area that Apple really needed to focus on. There's new voices that sound a lot more real. What's also really interesting is there's translation beta feature, so you can say, Siri, how do you say, the sky is blue in Chinese, French, German, Italian, or Spanish, and it can translate that for you and say it out loud. So the demo that they talked about, or the use case they talked about, was being in a Chinese restaurant and asking something about the specials, and then Siri can just say it in Chinese, and they can hear it and respond to you in kind. What's also nice about Siri is it's context aware now, which is another big thing that some of the other artificial intelligence assistants were doing, but that's a very important feature. And what Siri learns about you on one device, like your iPhone, will synchronize between Siri on your Mac and iPad as well. There's new photo and video codecs. A lot of that was just developer talk, but what it does mean is better compression. So theoretically, the images and pictures you're taking will look better and take up less space on your devices. Cool feature: redesigned control center with a one-page look, so you don't have to go up and then swipe to get access to media controls, for example. You will have access to them right from one page, and then you can use 3D touch to get more information about any particular thing. They also talked about their Maps app being updated with mail and airport directories in certain cities and certain airports, speed limits, and lane suggestions for which lane you should be driving in when you're making a turn, which is really nice. They talked about AirPlay 2, which will kind of connect a little bit in a second, but it allows for multi-room audio controls in iOS, so you can play media on, let's say, your iPhone and control which different areas of your home have a wireless speaker that connects to AirPlay that you can use. And it's also really cool is that there's a shared up next feature in the new version of iOS. So if you're basically have a party and you have a playlist going and one of your friends wants to add something, they can just go to their music app on their iPhone or iPad and add it right to the queue, which is really nice. The last big outward change that they talked about was a redesigned App Store. You'll just have to go and check it out when that's available or look at images online. Not really necessary for me to describe it to you here. I want to take a pause from talking about iOS for a second to talk about the new iPad Pros, because some of the iPad specific iOS features I'll talk about in a second. So exactly like I talked about in my predictions video for WWDC, there is a 12.5-inch Retina display built in basically to the same form factor as the 9.7-inch iPad Pro previously. They did this by reducing the border bezels by 20%. They were able to keep it at still 1 pound. What's really interesting is the displays on this. It's a True Tone display, which I liked, and that's also, it seems to be going to the 12.9-inch iPad as well. It's brighter at 600 nits, ultra low reflectivity, and talking about refresh rates here, 120 hertz, so it's double the refresh rate previously. And what's also very interesting, so not only do you have an improved refresh rate that allows everything to look a lot smoother, but the refresh rates dynamically adjust. So if you're looking at something that doesn't require constant refreshing, like a stable image, it'll be able to tone down or go down with the refresh rate so that you'll get better battery life. And I think that's really cool. Its Apple Pencil latency is very, very good on this and is improved. There's going to be an A10X Fusion chip, which is a 6-core CPU, 3 high-performance cores, and 3 high-efficiency cores, which is very cool. 30% faster than the previous A9. 12-core GPU, which is 40% faster graphics performance than the previous iPad Pro. It has the same camera tech that's in the iPhone 7, so it's very good both front and back. Still 10-hour battery life, although one of my kind of problems with the 9.7-inch iPad Pro that I recently sold, and if you want to know more about that, make sure you check out the video on my YouTube page, youtube.com/therevivedone. They talk about 10-hour battery life. We'll have to see, because one of my gripes about the old version of this was that the battery life was a little bit lackluster, but we'll see about that. Another kind of small point they talked about was fast charging. So it seems that you'll be able to do fast charging when you're charging your iPad plugged in via Lightning, and then the connector is actually the USB-C connector that is a separate purchase. So you do have a fast charging option, it just doesn't seem like it's out of the box. What is nice though about the new iPad Pros, both the 10.5-inch and the 12.9-inch that hasn't changed on the exterior, storage capacities start at 64 gigabyte base, and then up to 256, and then 512 with pricing going up for increased storage and for LTE support. They will be shipping out next week. So with that new iPad Pro and previously iOS 11, there's actually some new features particularly for the iPad in iOS 11. So there's a new dock, and you can add a lot more apps than you did previously. You can drag apps from the dock to multitask with, and you can drag and drop between apps, whether that's text or images or URLs, whatever, you can drag and drop. There's also a new Files application, so you finally have some control over file management. And what's cool here is it integrates your local storage and your cloud storage, both from Apple and from selected third-party providers, and you can see all of your documents aggregated together all in the Files app, which is really nice. There's also a Create PDF feature that's really cool to be able to create PDFs from multiple different pages that you can then use Apple Pencil support, which has been expanded to mark up and annotate all over that. And the Notes app, which again has already had Apple Pencil support, now has an ability to be a document scanner. And also when you handwrite things in the Notes application, they will be searchable based on machine learning, going through the handwritten stuff and converting it into what it thinks is the typed version, and you can search for, which is really cool. So all of those are some of the new things that came out of WWDC 2017. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel to get all of the updates right to your YouTube homepage. Oh, but wait, there's one more thing. And I previously talked about it, a Siri speaker. Apple's now calling it HomePod. Basically what this is a 7-inch tall mesh fabric, basically a little micro trash can looking thing with a 4-inch subwoofer. It's a speaker with an A8 chip inside, and of course Siri. There are 6 microphones to listen to you and react. They even say when music's playing and you're across the room, it doesn't matter, it'll still be able to pick up your voice and respond. And what's really nice is it'll be able to adapt to where it's positioned to optimize how it's playing the music. So what that means is it'll play music differently when this sphere is in the middle of a room versus when it's on a bookcase and there's nothing behind it but a wall, which is kind of a fascinating thing. Of course, not only will it be able to play music and interact with your iOS devices, it also has Siri support, so it can do other tasks as well. It can connect to HomeKit and control your HomeKit-enabled accessories. You can ask it questions like weather and sports. You can ask it to flip a coin or add a reminder. It doesn't seem like it has as many of the features that Amazon's Alexa has. You've seen commercials, or I've seen commercials at least, for Amazon Alexa, you know, on the Echo speaker talking about, you know, book this thing for me, order flowers, etc. It doesn't seem like Apple's Siri is there yet, but it seems like with an A8 chip inside and Wi-Fi connectivity, that could be improved upon with a software update in the future. It'll be shipping in December in white and space gray. It'll be $349. So that is actually a lightning update on what Apple announced at WWDC 2017. I know that this video is a little bit on the longer side, but that is the best I could do to condense Apple's over 2-hour WWDC 2017 conference and give you the highlights that you really need to know about. Again, if you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Comment on your favorite thing that you learned about WWDC 2017, and make sure you're subscribed at youtube.com/TheRevivedOne to make sure all my videos come right to your YouTube homepage. Thanks for watching.